thank you for coming today to the Purpose, Power, and Profit Society. I am so happy to have you. And on today, we are going to talk to Linda Clay. And before we get to Linda, I just want to let you know that this is the home for women where we activate their genius and get them more cash in their pockets. We help them discover their purpose and transform their pain into power. So today, I want you to be empowered to be the best you. And me, I'm Kymberly Smith, the Purpose Catalyst, and I will be here to facilitate your journey to purpose. So Linda, thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Kymberly, and I love your introduction. I think it's powerful. I just totally love it. Totally love it. We are on the same page.
Oh, I'm so excited. So today, Linda and I are going to be talking about what happens when your purpose is not your career. And Linda has a wonderful story. And I think between the both of us, we can share some great practical tips to help you move along the way and really walk into fulfillment of purpose and love it. And that's the key, is to walking into something that you absolutely love every day. So Linda, why don't you kick it off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and get the ladies all pumped and stirred.
Okay, so my name is Linda Clay. I'm an intuitive mentor and a life and business strategist, and I help women discover and own their personal power and their truth, and take that and create a life that they really want, not one that was sold to them by society or parents or teachers or whatever, something that really they can own. And I came about doing that and I won't go into my long life story, but just because of different situations that happened in my life that brought me to the point of where I am today, how important it is for women to stand up and go, I don't want this. This is what I want.
Absolutely. I think that is the power move. Really, when you decide that you don't have to accept what's given to you and you can have the life that you wanted and that you were really created to have,
right?
That's a real power move.
Yes, it is. It's totally. And I came upon my own late in life after a series of having corporate jobs, several different corporate jobs, dealing with children, raising a second family. I literally woke up one day and I was sitting on the couch and I just started crying, going, who am I? I don't know who I am anymore. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I had an online business as a virtual assistant, business consultancy. It was doing okay, but it was like, there's nothing else. I don't even know if I like chocolate or vanilla ice cream anymore. I mean, I was in my early 60s and I had been married at 20. I had never been alone. And it's like, okay, so what am I going to do? So I made a decision and I started research and I fell upon Portugal and I said, you know what? I'm going to move there. So I applied for a visa and I was approved and I went to Portugal by myself. I sold everything I owned, but what went into 2 suitcases. And I lived there for 5.5 months. And that was like the catalyst that made me step back and go, who am I? Do I like vanilla ice cream? No, not really. I like chocolate ice cream, and it was real. And then I realized that I really don't like doing admin work. It's not what makes me sing. Mm-hmm. It's not what, I'm good at. I mean, I can do it and I do it well, but it doesn't have that passion. And all of a sudden I realized that, oh my gosh, people are always asking me for advice and help and support. And it was like this huge light bulb.
Yes.
I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be mentoring people. And then I took it back and I was a store manager for over 20 years. And that is what a store manager does. Mm-hmm. When you're in management, you coach, you mentor, you're the mom, the dad, you're the psychiatrist, you're the psychologist. I mean, you're everything because people come to you because you're the head,
Absolutely.
And so I started slowly kind of revamping my business and have been now doing this now for about a year, just over a year probably, because that's my passion. That's my purpose. And when I sit down and I go, okay, purpose, what is my purpose? My purpose is to help other women sort through and figure out what their purpose is I look at it as like, first off, the world is like this one big, huge jigsaw puzzle. And if we're not all living our truth, there's a puzzle piece missing in that big jigsaw puzzle of life. Well, it's the same for an individual person. If you're not living your truth, you've got all these pieces scattered around. I'm the one that comes in and helps you find all those pieces and put them together so that you can fit. Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that stood out to me when you were talking. One, I love the fact that you took some time away to discover what it was you liked and what it was you didn't like. So for those women who maybe can't go to Portugal for, although I'm sure it was amazing.
That was amazing.
How would you tell them to step away? In most cases, we have like a 9 to 5, or we have a part-time job, or we're a full-time student and, a full-time employee, or a part-time student, full-time employee, multiple things. Basically, we're juggling. How would you tell them to take some time away in order to discover who they are at the core?
Okay. So one of the things that several different things that I do with my clients, but the first thing to do is to understand that you actually have time to do what you need to do. It's just a matter of where's your time. So I always recommend do a time journal for 2 weeks. Track your time, track your interruptions. If you're in a corporate job, is a perfect example. How many times does the person next to you come over and start chit-chatting and it's taken away from your job? You write down all those types of interruptions. If you're a mom, how many times does your friend call you on the phone and you sit and talk? Or how much time do you spend on Facebook? Facebook is the biggest time sucker there is. I mean, you can get on there literally and go, I'm just going to read a little bit of the news feed. And the next thing you know, 45 minutes has gone by and it's like, ooh, I should have been doing this. So I tell them to do that. Once they've done that journal, they can see, okay, I've got wasted minutes in here that I can apply to myself. And then I have them sit down and we talk about color coding a calendar. And we color code it and we break it down, certain colors for your self-care, certain colors for your business, or if you go to work or, however you work it, certain colors for household duties like laundry, like grocery shopping. What people don't realize is that, oh yeah, I'm just going to go grocery shopping. It's no big deal. But you forget to put the time it takes to go to the grocery store. You forget to put the time it takes to walk around the grocery store and get your groceries, and how much time it takes to get back home. And so all of a sudden it's 3 hours, not an hour, and you've lost 2 hours of the day. So really getting a handle on your calendar, and then make sure that you schedule in self-care. Part of self-care is learning who you are.
I love it.
And so by doing that, you're giving yourself, whether it's 5 minutes, if you're in a corporate job, it could be your break, maybe one of your breaks a day. You don't sit in the break room, you go find a cubby hole, you pull out your journal and you start asking yourself questions. Do I really like my job? What do I like about it?
Yes. What other questions would you say they should ask? If you had to name 3 questions, just 3 quick ones.
Okay. No, the biggest question that I ask any person that I get on the phone with and we're having some type of call is, what do you really want? That's the first question. Now, we have our surface answer, because the surface answer is the one that, oh yeah, well, I'm supposed to want to have this lifestyle because that's what everybody tells me. And then I'll say, what is it you really want? And that brings them down a layer to another. Oh, well, maybe I really don't like living in the city. I've always kind of wanted to live in the country. Okay. What is it you really want? So that question right there, if you keep asking yourself that, it brings out all those kind of like lost dreams. I've got a great exercise on lost dreams. But that's one question. What energizes you?
Yes.
Because certain things will definitely energize you. You can go, God, I'm going to do this today at work. I just love doing it. And so you're like out of bed, you're getting dressed and you're gone. But some people and some things that you do deflate you. Now, people, I call them energy vampires. but jobs or tasks that you do can be energy vampires. They pull that essence out of you. So those three things would be an excellent start, because you've got to break it down into what motivates you to get going.
I love that. I absolutely agree. If we don't discover who we are, then it really doesn't help if we decide we want to know what our purpose is.
Right.
You have to know who you are first.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing that I also tell my clients that you mentioned too is, what are the things that have plagued you during your life, the consistent challenges that you have? That's what really helps you discover your purpose. Because you've been doing it all along, not realizing it, and you haven't really, I don't think people realize we go through the same similar struggle time after time, because it's like a little breadcrumb to say, you're supposed to be doing this. You're
Right.
the solution to this. So that's one of the biggest things. What do you hear most when people tell you, oh my God, I've been going through that all of my life? How do you get them to see that they are the solution to that?
That's a good question. Some of that, they're living in the past.
Yes.
If they're constantly, first off, if you're constantly repeating the same thing, or you're seeing the same situation come up in your life, then obviously you haven't learned the lesson. There is a lesson. So, not to go into my whole story, but, I lost my husband. I've suffered from depression. Every single thing that I've gone through, I think I told you earlier before the call that I had what you call a WTF year. I mean, it was like 5 or 6 major life crises in one 9-month period. And it's like, sure, I could have stood back and I could sit there and wallow in that and just continue the process. But I realize now every single thing I went through was a gift. So when you have somebody that comes to you and says, well, I don't, this stuff just keeps happening. It's up here.
Yep.
It's what's coming out of your mouth. I just did a Facebook Live on this today. What you're spewing out of your mouth is exactly what you're going to bring in. So if you're living in the past and you're repeating patterns, you haven't learned your lesson, watch the negative self-talk, because that's a huge part of it. And there's a lesson that there really is a lesson you're supposed to walk away from that. Now, I do agree with the one thing that you just said about how it's like crumbs, if you keep running into the same kind of people, or you keep having the same situation. So as I said, it could be something that you need to face. You need to change about yourself. But it also could be that there is that kind of like carrot saying, pay attention because you're good at this. We need you, you're supposed to be working with these kinds of people or whatever. And I really believe that there's something that I heard a couple of years ago about how if you look at, like, if I've suffered from depression, I've gone through major grief. So yes, I do get people that are in those periods in their life, but I can understand them now. Yes. I didn't have that before.
Yes.
So you really have to look at situations as walking away from them in the positive sense. What is it that I can do? Write down. I love to tell people to write down their negative thoughts and see what it is that's bothering them about the situation, and then write a column of positive thoughts.
I love that.
How do you reframe it?
Yes.
What can you walk away from this? Yeah.
We actually just did this in my Facebook group today. Our Wednesdays are called Walking on Water Wednesdays. And, it's a moment where you realize you have been saying things out of your mouth that have been negative, that have been contrary to, you living your best life, to you being a purpose fulfilled person. And how do you turn that around to really say what God says about you and who you really are called to be? And so today that was the activity. So, what are you calling yourself? Who are you calling yourself? And what are you saying about different circumstances? It takes a minute for people to really think about it because they're so ingrained.
Right.
saying what they don't have or who they are not, that
Right.
it takes a moment to reframe and change their perspective
Mm-hmm.
as to who they really are. And it just isn't showing on stage.
Mm-mm.
It's,
And it's something, when you're looking at reframing who you are or reframing your thoughts,
mhm,
because you're really not changing who you are,
right.
because you are who you are. You're
Yes.
changing your thoughts about yourself. It
Hmm.
will not happen, overnight.
Exactly.
So if you're 40 years old and you're at this, these are the thoughts that you have about yourself. It took you 40 years to get there. So you can't expect, only one day, excuse me, of having it
Hmm.
change.
Hmm.
But it also is constant work. It will continue your entire life. So, as a prime example, I was not feeling well this morning. And so I was kind of like grumpy. And it was like, oh, God, Linda, this is just not going to work. I could just hear it, that negative chitter. I call it chitter chatter. And I
Hmm.
went, stop, Linda, we're not going there. We're done with that. We're moving on.
Hmm.
And I've learned to stop myself
Hmm.
before those voices take over, because and everybody has them. Everybody has voices in their head that tell them you can't do that. So the prime example is when I was looking at becoming a mentor coach, it was like, oh, you can't do that, Linda. Would people even want to talk to you? You know what I'm saying? You play that script in your head. And so I took my thoughts and I wrote down the negative statement, and then I wrote 3 positive statements right underneath it. So, Linda, you can't be a coach. I went, hell yes, I can, because I coached for 20 plus years.
Hmm.
Well, you don't really have any official training. Yes, I did. I took training during my management years. They always gave us coaching training.
Hmm.
Um, and then I think the last one was, I already have people asking me to coach. You
Hmm.
know, so you put down positive statements to refute that negative lie, because you're telling it's a lie. You're telling your head that what you're telling me is a lie. I don't need it anymore. And, stop.
Now, one of the things that I want to talk about, because you say you are a mentor and a coach, let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about the difference between the two so that people are very much aware. How do you describe a mentor versus a
Oh,
coach? Are there different
okay.
responsibilities?
Yeah, I really waffled, and I'm just going to be honest with your audience. I feel that I mentor people. I don't tell them what to do.
Mhm,
I listen to them.
mhm.
I call myself kind of like a human vision board. They can use
Okay,
me.
I like it.
And I will offer suggestions, but the bottom line is I am not going to tell them what they need to do. I
Okay.
believe I having the coaches that I know usually tell you what to do
Mhm,
or give you a game plan or whatever.
mhm,
Mine is more of a mutual agreement. So we have action plans, sure,
mhm,
but it's an action plan that we develop together.
mhm,
I don't say that, this is what you need to do to get your website up and running.
mhm.
So you tell me what you think you need to do for kind of thing. I'm trying to make a mutual. I don't know what the official difference is. Some of the reason I don't call myself coach is because, unfortunately, it's not necessarily always a positive thing
They sometimes
in some
have a
cases.
negative connotation.
Yes,
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 yes, it can.
and so then when I realized that I don't think I'm the official kind of coach,
Mhm,
and I use my intuition a lot, so I have, because of my background, the ability to listen to somebody, and I can pull out what they're saying when they don't even know they're saying it.
mhm,
So I can get underneath. And I have my clients tell me that all the time. You knew what I needed before I even knew I needed it,
mhm.
kind of thing. And so that's something. So I kind of changed what I was doing. And then I added the strategist, because I can help people sort through their life,
Mhm,
but I don't consider myself a life coach.
mhm.
And I can help them start their businesses.
I
So,
love it. Now, one of the things you transitioned from was being a full-time employee to being a
I did.
full-time entrepreneur. And
I
knowing
did.
that you were only fulfilling a fragment of your purpose as, an employee somewhere. How did you manage to make that shift? It's one thing to say, I want to do it. It's another thing to actually do it. So let's talk a little bit about one, when you decided this is my purpose, two, I'm not really feeling very fulfilled right now in this position. And three, what made you take the jump? That launch period is so pivotal in your life when you're moving from career to purpose, if they're not intertwined. And I want people to understand what it takes, and not just the tangible things, but also the mindset, what it takes even emotionally. I think that, your EQ is major when you make that jump. So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay. So first off, to find your purpose, or that, your purpose and the passion is a journey. You just don't wake up one day and go, oh, I'm going to do this. And it's not, this is it. Poof. There is no fairy godmother. She doesn't come around with a wand going, zip, Linda, So mine started, I worked for 20 some years in clothing retail. And there is no way when I was younger and with my two little kids that I ever thought I would be doing this, because it wasn't in my vision. It wasn't in my thought process. And so, but I had to go to work. So I go to work, I get this job, I do okay. I get promoted, I go through the whole route and all this kind of stuff. When I was at Barnes & Noble, yes, I was passionate about Barnes & Noble. I loved when I transitioned from clothing to books. It was like Christmas every single day. I absolutely loved it. And you could not have given me a better job. And then my husband got sick, and that was the start of my WTF year. And so it all shifted my whole entire life. It was like it was over with. My husband passed away after 4 months of being sick, or 4.5 months. And a bunch of other stuff happened. And it was like, okay, it was like a chapter was closing on my life. Now, I believe in my life experience has taught me that we are on a journey. And so, yes, you're on a journey to discover your purpose. You're on a journey to discover your passion. And it might not be a straight path. There's
You're absolutely right.
There's twists and turns along the way. And so I sat in depression for 2 years or so after my husband died. And I'm honest with the audience. I didn't want to get better. I didn't want to be hurt. I had taken a lot of pain, and it was like time out kind of thing. But then the universe woke me up and said, nope, you have to get a job, because all of a sudden you have no income. And I was raising my granddaughter, who was 4.5 or 5 at the time. So I had to pull myself out of it. I had to go after a job. So I take a job, and it was with the wrong company, and it was in the wrong state. And so it just didn't gel. And so I contacted Barnes & Noble. I got back on with them, but I moved clear across country. So I went from Seattle all the way to New Hampshire with just my granddaughter and myself, and I knew no one. And I lived there for a year. I loved the area, loved the job, but it wasn't well suited for raising a child.
Okay.
Because you work so late at night with Barnes & Noble.
With retail, yes.
With retail. And so it was like, I can't do this, but I turned the store around. It was a store that was struggling, and I turned it around, and it was excellent for my self-confidence and helped me kind of like grow. And I decided that I wanted to be a school administrator for a water school. Okay. Never done it before. So I took a big piece of paper and I drew what I call a treasure map. And the heart of it was being a school administrator for a Waldorf school. And then I put the Space Needle, and I put the evergreen trees, and I put the ferry boats and everything that represents Washington State. And I put them all over this map, and I wanted my granddaughter to go to school there. So I put a place for Kelsey, and I put it on my counter, and I looked at it in the morning. I looked at it when I got home and cooked dinner. I looked at it when I went to bed. Within 3 months, I had saved enough money, and I had found a moving company at a really good rate that would come in and pack me up all my stuff and move me back to Seattle. I found a Waldorf school that would take her on a scholarship. So I quit my job and I moved back across country with Kelsey, and she started at school. It's one of my favorite stories. And so I decided to volunteer because it was too much to go back and forth. She was only in there for a half a day. Mm-hmm. So I start volunteering. Well, in a couple of weeks or whatever, a month, they say, "Oh, do you want a part-time job?" I went, "Oh, sure. Why not? I'm here anyway. So why not get paid for it for sitting in. And then a while down the road, they said, "Do you want a full-time job?" I went, "Oh, sure. Why not?" Well, within a year or so, I was the school administrator. They called me something else, but I basically was what a school administrator was. So from the start of that job, even though I loved Barnes & Noble, it led me, and this is what I'm trying to tell the audience, it leads you to another thing. So I worked for 5 years for the school, and it was an awesome opportunity, taught me so much insight, gave me so much insight into healthy foods and Bach remedies and better ways of eating and all this stuff that I had never, ever been in touch with. Meanwhile, I also was building on the side an escrow signing business. So I leave the school, I get a job as a parish administrator. Thought, oh, this will be a piece of cake. So I'm doing that, doing my notary business. My notary business explodes. I quit my job at parish administrator, and I do notary signings full time. Worked really well for a few years, and then boom, the economy and everything crashed. So I had to go back to work. So I heard of a job in California, and so I applied for it and I got it. Worst job I've ever had.
Wow.
But it led me to my final career at 61 as an escrow assistant. Now that job is extremely difficult to get into, and it's extremely hard to understand, and it's a very stressful environment, but I did it and I was successful. But then the economy, I get laid off. So I'm 63 and I'm going, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll just send out resumes because I've always gotten a job. So why not? Right? Mm-hmm. Well, no, nobody wants to hire somebody at 63 years old. I found out, even with my experience.
Wow.
And sure enough, I started researching it, and there was all kinds of people my age saying, yeah, nobody will hire baby boomers. And I was like, oh, great. What am I going to do? So I decided to start an online business. And so that led me to the virtual assistant business consultancy, which led me to my passion and my purpose.
I love that you use like all of your talents, your skills, and your abilities to step out on your own. Yeah. That's amazing. People really do get stuck moving from one phase to the other.
Yep.
And a few of the things that I heard you talk about, the first one, number one, creating the treasure map for the counter. Can we just talk about that for a second? Like, that's big. But it reminds me of a vision board.
Right.
And a lot of times I think people do vision boards in groups as like a great girlfriend pastime, but I don't think that they incorporate their purpose into it. I think it's just, ooh, I got a magazine, has everything that I want, and it's great, and my board looks awesome, and I'm going to write some great things on there. But I don't feel like people necessarily make it as intentional as it needs to be. So that's one of the things that I love that you mentioned, is that you created this very specific and intentional diagram about what you wanted. And not only did you create it, but you put it somewhere that you had to see it every day, multiple times a day.
Right.
Which then I can only imagine that it created this energy and this, it was motivating for you to see it because you knew that you had a goal in mind.
Right.
Do you agree?
Oh yeah, no, I do agree. And the times that, I mean, I have other stories, but that one is so specific. And if you're going to, we didn't ever call it manifesting years ago.
Mhm.
But if you're going to call something to your life, or you're going to want to create the energy to bring something to you, you
Mhm.
actually have to believe it's going to happen.
Yes.
You actually have to want it, and you have to be specific.
Yes.
So on that treasure map, I put everything that I could think of that represented the Northwest to me, that exactly what I wanted on there, that I wanted to be a school administrator. I wanted Kelsey to go there, you
Mhm.
know, and I stepped away and let it happen. But I looked at it every single day. So as an example, before I got the job for Barnes and Noble, the
Mhm.
same type of scenario, but I didn't have a vision or a treasure map or a vision board.
Mhm.
I just told myself I was going to be a store manager for Barnes and Noble. And I did that repeatedly. And it was like, gosh, I want to say it was like a 4-month interview process. It was a nightmare, really, because who wants to wait 4 months or so, to find out you get hired? But
But it happens all the time.
I know.
I don't even want to tell you.
And so I would sit there, and I wanted it so bad that I made myself live it, breathe it, and eat it, basically. Not did I do it constantly? I would slip, sure. And I would have doubts like, God, am I ever going to get that job? But then I would pull myself back into, yes, I am, because I don't like what I'm doing and I want to work in books. Which brings me up to when I was younger and in my probably late 20s,
Mhm.
and my husband and I lived in California. I used to dream about working in a bookstore or owning a bookstore.
Wow.
And I would go into this little one in the town we lived in, and I could just, oh God, I would just love to have a bookstore. And I would sell my lemon bars, and I make damn good lemon bars. And I would have coffee, and I would have tea, and I have cushy chairs, and I'd have pieces of Northwest art,
Mhm.
and I would have a fireplace, and I'd have all these really cool things. Well, X amount of years later, whatever it was, I got hired by Barnes and Noble. The store that I ran had a cafe, of course, served coffee, served tea, served lemon bars, had music, had a fireplace. It had every single thing that I had dreamed about when I was younger. It just that it came true in a little bit different way.
Mhm.
And that's one of the dream exercises I'll have people do when they work with me.
I love that. One of the there are two other things that really speak to your story. And the first one is endurance.
Mm-hmm.
Have gone through, and still you've been able to come out on this journey of purpose, and not just for yourself, but for other women. And that is powerful. That's what I, teach my tribe as well, is that your purpose really isn't about you. You get to enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's really for other people, because there
Mm-hmm.
are so many other people who can't get through the story. They're
Right.
stuck on page 3. They're stuck on what happened when they were a child, and they don't know how to turn the page. So the important part is really being able to endure, and endure well, and come through so that you can pull everybody else through.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is your tenacity is amazing. Moving across country, like what, 2, 3 times?
Twice. Well, back and forth.
Yeah, like that's crazy to me. Like I think listen, I know people that won't move across the street because I hate packing. I can't.
You should.
Move across the country twice. Like that really speaks volumes. And I think that as we decide that I'm no longer going to live this life that doesn't really fit who I am, my authentic self, that you need those 3 things.
Right.
You need to be able to see the vision, even though if it doesn't look like it. You need to be able to have endurance, because it's life, and no one it really has preventative measures against anything bad happening.
Right.
And 3, you need tenacity for the no's in life, for the doors that get shut, and
Right.
you need to be able to really understand which doors are not for you and which
Right.
ones you need to kick down.
Right. Right. No, and I agree. I agree with that. I think it's important that, going back to your first point, you have to figure out what works for you to get to know yourself. So
Yes.
my moving across country was just a part of my journey. It
Mhm.
helped me, just as going to Portugal helped me find things that were missing or find things that I needed to bring out within myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people get kind of tunnel vision because they're living this life that is expected of them. And so it becomes routine.
Mm-hmm.
They get up in the morning, they go to work, they come home, they fix dinner, they feed the kids, they say goodnight to the kids, and they watch TV for a half hour, and then they go to bed, and then they repeat, and then they repeat. So it becomes kind of like it's like a routine. It's like autopilot. We're just going to do this autopilot. So they don't challenge themselves. And so when you're digging in and you're trying to figure out who you are and what you like, it's kind of like you're in dressing room and you've brought in 5 dresses and you're going to try them on.
Mm-hmm.
And you put one dress on and you go, oh no, God, no, that doesn't look good on me. And you try another one, you go, oh no, polka dots, not me. Until you find that dress that fits, you'll know when something fits because there won't be a hesitation. There will not be a hesitation. You'll be comfortable and you'll know. Now, the key is that it might not always stay that way. And people have to understand that you can find yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you can go out there and start a business, you can get a different career, you can do whatever makes you happy is what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you've grown, you've changed. So you're going to go back and you're going to go through the process again.
Exactly.
And you're going to go through it again. And so life is a series of different transitions. I used to tell my girls that, it's like, okay, you have a chapter in your life. When that chapter comes to an end, you're going to go into a new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
At any moment in time, every single one of us, if we don't like what's being written in our story,
Mm-hmm.
we can complete that chapter, get our pencil and start writing the new one.
Exactly.
And move on, Exactly.
And I think there's a strength that I think we tap into in crisis moment that we overlook during our daily lives. And it takes a strength to rewrite what we know for a period of time.
Right.
Does not fit anymore.
Right.
It no longer, or it's too small for who they're busting out. And it does take that strength. It really is being in crisis almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I want women to realize that you have to tap into that regardless.
Right.
Act like the house is on fire.
Right. Right.
That's your purpose is. Your
right.
passion is burning and it's too big for what you're currently doing.
Right.
So it's time to make a move. And I think a lot of times women will extinguish it before they decide to let the fire burn brighter.
Right. No, and I agree. They're scared.
Yes.
It's fear can be an absolute crippling feeling.
Yes.
And it can stop you right where you're at. Mm-hmm. Or you can use your fear as the biggest motivator you have.
You are exactly.
And everything that I've gone through, heck yeah, I've been afraid. I mean, it's not easy packing your suitcases and going to Portugal and not knowing the language. My stomach was in a knot. I was excited, but I was so afraid of what I was going to find and what I was going to face and God, facing myself. Those things are scary. Yeah. But the best thing to do is to ask yourself questions like, what will it matter in 5 years? Whatever situation you're in.
That's good.
And what is the worst thing that's going to happen? Because normally the worst thing is not really that bad.
Yeah.
And what happens is when we face our fear and we move past it, we can go back and we look and we go, oh, yeah, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Exactly. I feel like if the worst thing that doesn't happen doesn't equate to you being broke or in prison,
right?
Take a shot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Take a shot. Yep. So, Linda, I have enjoyed our conversation tonight, but I don't want you to leave without telling the ladies where they can find you. So tell them where they can find you, social media, offline. Where do you hang out?
Okay, so I hang out in my group. I have my own Facebook group, Capture Your Passion. I'm in there a lot. I have a business page. It's Linda M. Clay Biz at the end. Mm-hmm. And I'm on all social media channels under Linda M. Clay. And my website is just Linda M. Clay.
Okay, I love it.
Yep, that's it.
Oh my God. Do you have anything coming up that maybe
I actually do.
join you? Talk about it. Tell us what we can do.
So I'm just revamping some packages because I want to serve. My purpose is to serve women to be able to find and get those pieces put together so they can enjoy life. Mm-hmm. I really want people to enjoy life because it should be enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And so I have a group program called Step Into Your Zen. And it's a 6-month program and only 5 women will be in it. That's it. So I'm doing one-on-one coaching in a very small group setting for a really affordable price. And they'll get one full call with me, 45-minute call with me every month, where we'll talk about their action plan, what they're going to do. And then they get group calls after that. And we'll break down and so they can be accountable. Got to be accountable. You got to have those things. They'll have action plans. They will have Q&As once a week, live, through Zoom or something, live Q&As and that kind of stuff, so that they can spend the 6 months really defining, who they are. We'll cover mindset. We're going to cover life and business balance because that's so crucial. We'll cover self-confidence because so many women lack confidence. So there's a theme every month that will be the generating focus and stuff. So that's the big thing. Of course, I do one-on-one coaching also, or mentoring. And I also am doing what you call an intense dive, which is 2 days of 3 hours in the morning, 2-hour break and implementation, and then 3 hours in the afternoon on a Saturday or Sunday, whichever works. And then the following weekend, we would do the second half. So I'm putting that all together. So those are my big things. Yeah.
I love those options. Yeah. You're doing work out here.
Yeah. And I'm doing it limited, like the intense dive. I haven't 100% decided how many I'll do in a quarter, but I'm not going to do a lot of them because that's intense work.
Yes.
But I just did this with someone the other day and it was like, wow, I could make this into a program because we could sit and talk. Like the first day, the first half is a really get to know you session, that kind of thing. It's also dream building because I find that a lot of women really forgot that they had dreams and they don't remember what they are. So I have an exercise that brings those out.
Okay.
And shows them that, hey, you've actually met those dreams, just like I was telling you about the bookstore. Yeah. Same kind of scenario. And, and so they'll spend their lunch hour making a little special dream map kind of thing and, that kind of stuff. So not giving out all the goodies, but yeah.
That's good. That is so good. I am excited for this. Well, listen, thank you for coming by the Purpose, Power, and Profit Society. We may have to do a part 2 because this
okay. Okay. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Really had fun.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, totally.
So listen, to the ladies, thank you so much for joining us tonight or today, wherever you're catching this. Listen, you can find me on Facebook at The Purpose Catalyst. So Facebook.com, The Purpose Catalyst, or on Instagram at Purpose_Catalyst. Listen, I look forward to hearing your reviews. Hashtag Purpose, Power, and Profit Society when you hear it on either platform. And hey, listen, if you want to drop by my home, I'm at KymberlySmith.com. Kymberly with KYM. My parents were really funny. BERLY Smith.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a beautiful day.